Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een amma ba'du. So, before we stop, inshallah, just a quick recap, because again, this is not everything connected to these issues, but at least hopefully this give us some awareness of what's going on when we hear the words halal, haram, and the different rulings. We hear the word fiqh, madhab, and these different terms. At least we have some type of background. Again, the word madhab has a meaning, but what we're talking about tonight is regarding the science of fiqh, which doesn't include the science of aqidah. But the word madhab, the way we understand it right now, is used in the science of aqidah. And that's why sometimes it says the madhab of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Sometimes it is used there, but that's a different conversation. When we're talking about these issues here, we're talking about the halal and the haram. Madhab Ahl Sunnah, when it comes to an issue, for example, it'll say, what is the madhab of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah when it comes to Allah's names and attributes? Right? Same word, that's aqidah, meaning what is the procedure, what's the process, how do the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, how do they look at Allah's names and attributes, how do they believe in them? That's a whole separate category. We're not talking about aqidah, we're talking about the science of fiqh, which is our actions, how we worship, as they specify specifically. When it comes to fiqh, we're talking about worship, and we're talking about mu'amalat, which is basically contracts, whether it's buying and selling, or whether it's marriage, right? When it comes to contracts, that's what we're talking about fiqh. And that's why when you look at certain books, the chapters, if you look at the table of contents, certain books, it's all fiqh. No aqidah, nothing about, for example, the stories of the prophets, nothing about necessarily adab, behavior and manners. Is all chapters of fiqh. So it'll start off the book of purification, right? Then it'll go about making istinja. Then it'll go the chapter of wudu, the chapter of ghusl, the chapter of the menses, kitab al-salat, the conditions of the salat, go through all kitab al-salat, the sujood for forgetting, voluntary prayers, the Eid prayers, the janazah prayer, the rain prayer, the eclipse prayer, right? Then it goes to the chapter of zakat, all through zakat, siyam, fasting, hajj, all this is worship, right? That's the books of fiqh. Then it'll move there and it'll go to the section of what they call mu'amalat, transactions, contracts. It'll go to the chapter of al-buyu', buying and selling, right? Then it'll go to nikah, marriage. Marriage is a contract, right? And then divorce, breaking that contract. These are the books of fiqh, right? And all of them, basically, all of them, no matter what, whether it's the madhab of Imam Abu Hanifa, no matter what the madhab is out of the four schools of thought, they're all going to be surrounded to get into what we were talking about today. All of them. The point to mention is we get to a point where we're wondering why some masjids do things different. Some people are answering questions, getting different answers, right? We should know that maybe it's the reason behind it that I just don't know. My knowledge, my Islamic knowledge, I don't know that. Not that everybody who doesn't answer exactly the way I think you should answer is necessarily wrong or not practicing Islam correctly, which most of us, not most of us, but a lot of us have done. If they don't say what's in the book that I read, then they must be shot out. Because Sheikh bin Baz said it right here. It's clear. As if Sheikh bin Baz is the only one, rahimahullah, who wrote a book in that subject in the world, right? And that's not a very, that's a beginner level approach of understanding deen. If somebody practiced their deen based on that, what they have in front of them, and and that's what they have, and that's what they use to worship Allah, alhamdulillah. The problem is if I'm limited like that, I want everybody around me to be limited like me. So everybody around me can't know more than me. So everybody around me has to follow that one book that I'm reading too. So what happens when a brother or sister comes with another book that says the opposite and challenges what you're saying? We get offended. How you not taking from the sheikh? You just want to argue. No, it got to be a reason. How is it that these are two scholars that we all say we love and they have two different answers? Why is that? What's going on? Islam is not chaotic. Islam has the answers. We need to understand the process and what's going on so that we are not people that are confused. The confusion comes from a lack of knowledge. Confusion doesn't come from deen. The deen, everything is set up and laid out. But the lack of knowledge and know-how causes confusion. And that's why the ulama always mention when it comes to usul al-fiqh, which is a whole nother science, there are no verses in the Quran that contradict each other. There are no hadith. They don't. So what's happening? That means the reader doesn't understand. The reader doesn't know how to make a combination between the two things that they're reading, and it looks like these are contradictory. It's on the reader to have enough knowledge in general to be understand how these two are able to mesh without contradicting each other. That's on they call the nadhir. The nadhir is the person, the sheikh, the alim that's reading the information. He or she is supposed to be able to distinguish why is it like that? These two look like they contradictory. Why? They're supposed to be able to get to the bottom of that. So I just wanted to go back and recap just so we clear, because like he said, the next issue is, and I don't know when we're going to do it, but when we find these differences, how are we supposed to behave? How are we supposed to react when we find these differences? Number one, you have differences in Islam that are called khilaf mu'tabar. This is a respected difference of opinion in Islam amongst the scholars. The scholars differ and they respect it. And then there's other khilaf, there's other differences that's not even a respect. We're not even considering you saying something like that, right? And it's a way to deal with both of them. And that's a whole class by itself, which is the adab al-khilaf, the manners and etiquette of how do we carry ourselves when we run into difference of opinion. Yes. They didn't what? They didn't rank up? What you mean they didn't rank up? There was two brothers over here, and where was the other brothers? How many people prayed? You said when they didn't rank, how many people prayed the salat? It was filled up? All right, I'm gonna do this intentionally. If you say to me they weren't ranked up, I'm assuming they didn't make a line. You feel what I'm saying? All right, they made a line, so they were in a rank. So they ranked up. I'll tell you. You said, all right, you understand what I'm saying? Now, all right, now what you saying about the rank? Now we're talking about the description of the rank, because they were in a line, but now we're talking about the description of the rank, right? All right, now describe the rank. Cool, they were spaced out. What you mean spaced out? No, what you mean spaced out? I want you to tell me space. What it? Yes. How much space? 2-3 inches. Tayyib. Let's get to the crux of the issue. What's the issue? The issue that we're talking about now is when we line up for the salat. This is how the ulama, this is how they're going to categorize it. And I did all that because that's the only way to get to, if I would have took what you said first, my understanding is they wasn't even in line. They just prayed the salat. It was 4 people up there. That's crazy. I'm like, damn, that's crazy. The brother said, what mad shit was that? He like, where was this at? Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I was about to say maybe it was COVID, but then you said last year. I'm like, dang, I can't even give him the COVID. Tayyib. the issue is going to boil down to the issue of straightening the ranks and filling the gaps. And they're going to go to the issue of what does that mean and how close is a person supposed to be when we line up? What do those, and now you got to do a whole, what is the understanding of all those ahadith concerning that issue? Not just the one you heard about, because, and I'm not using them as a dalil, this is not a dalil, but when you have people who write these books, scholars who write the books, right, about how to line up, and then you pray next to them, and they're praying like you describing, with 2-3 inches between you and them. Something's going on. Either A, Sheikh wrote the book and he's not practicing what he wrote. We gonna say that? No, we ain't gonna say that. We're gonna say, man, we're gonna have good thoughts about the scholars. You feel what I'm saying? We're not gonna say, oh man, Sheikh wrote the book, he don't even practice what he wrote. No, we're not gonna say that. We're gonna have good thoughts about the scholars. Say, but dad, if he said in his book you're supposed to be lined up, and he's not lined up like that, what does it mean to line up? Like, what does it mean? Because what I'm seeing doesn't match what I think it means in this book. You understand what I'm saying? And that's the issue of itself. Of how close are we supposed to be? Are we supposed to touch feet? I don't even want to get into this because I don't want to get into this because it needs more detail than this just type of breeze over. It needs more detail. But the point is, you like, yo. The point is, as the ulama say, this is an issue that the ulama discuss. It's an issue that's discussed, that they explain why, who said this, why, and then you see the result is what you see people doing in different masjids. It's a discussion. That's one of them topics, yeah. It's one of them joints. You see something like that, based on what I know, it's one of them joints, man, I ain't going back there. I'm cool. And then we're going to say, if somebody say, well, what's wrong? I'm going to say, you're going to say, man, they don't even rank up. And they're going to be like, huh, they don't rank up? That's crazy. I'm cool. Where was that at? Oh, I'm cool. And now I'm going to tell everybody, based on what you said, no, man, I know a brother used to go up there. He said, they don't even rank up. They don't make ranks. Psh, he was there. Because I didn't understand. You said one. You understand what I'm saying? That's why wording is important. You feel me? Yes. Jayed. Getting close as possible when we rank up. Close as possible. According, I'm not saying you, I'm just saying, but I am using you, but not like you only, all of us, because all of us learn the same stuff, right? That one book that we read and a few narration, there was a whole bunch of other narrations that wasn't in that book. There's a whole bunch of other narrations that weren't in that book describing the salat and how they prayed and what was seen. When you take what's in that book and you look at that, they're going to look like it's contradicting each other if you don't understand how to line them up and digest them and make them mesh. So what do? We only learned a couple things. So we take this and that's how we worship Allah. So you go to some masjids, they pray exactly how we pray, and my heart is comfortable. Then I go somewhere else and they don't pray like that was in that book. I'm uncomfortable. That's not what it said in the book. What are they doing? They doing something else that you know what I'm saying? It caused a little panic. No doubt you're supposed to be as close as possible. Next question is how close you're supposed to be. In the narrations about touching the feet, some of the ulama describe the narrations as that's just showing emphasis of being close. Because if you stood up next to a brother or a sister and tried to touch those places, the body lineup won't even allow to touch according to some of the narrations. Not the ones you read, according to other ones that weren't mentioned in that book. If you actually tried to stand up and pray like that, they say it's mustahil, it's impossible to even stand like that. And if it's impossible to stand like that, why is it mentioned? Well, it's mentioned like that to emphasize being close. But that's another conversation. We need more to be able to, you know what I'm saying? Mm. Yeah, he said, what are you supposed to do if you see something that you're not knowledgeable about and it looks like it goes against what you learned and you're trying to get to the answer and you can't find anything? The first thing you should do is wherever you saw that thing, you should ask the people who are there practicing it, if you're able to. If they're there and they doing something, you should ask them, why are you doing it like that? I've never seen it. I thought, not rude, y'all. As we say, you're not run down on the imam of the masjid. Yo, man, y'all, not even, and I'm saying this because this is how we talk. We don't have to talk aggressive to your brother. Yo, why y'all keep doing, why y'all ain't praying? Y'all ain't even praying right. You go to somebody telling them like that. Y'all not praying right. You supposed to be praying. That's not how you ask somebody something about you don't know. Assalamu alaikum, how you doing? I thought, I was always taught, that you're supposed to pray like this, but I see everybody's praying this. Is it something, you might want to even smile at them. Take some pressure. They don't know who you are. You don't know. Ask the people who are there. First of all, they're practicing it. Ask them. It's possible the person you ask, just the regular, they don't know. That's just how they were taught. Same way you were taught to pray like that, the same way they were taught. They don't know. It's an imam, they're leading the salat. Somebody there is the person of knowledge at that area. Try to ask them. The point is, at that point, if a person, not you, if a person sees something, the point is now I'm trying to learn, not trying to check them. There's a difference in approach if I'm trying to check you for doing something or if I'm trying to learn why you're doing it the way you're doing it. It's not the same approach. You feel what I'm saying? If you're trying to learn, you're going to give them a certain approach, you ask them a certain way, and you're trying to get to an answer sincerely. Not that, man, I know that can't be right. Watch this. Assalamu alaikum, why y'all be praying like y'all, and you're not really trying to learn, you're just trying to really put somebody in a bad predicament. I bet you we can't answer this. We're not trying to do that, you see what I'm saying? So my first thing is you should ask the people who are doing it first. If they are not able, then you find somebody who you see to be of knowledge and ask them, I saw this somewhere, what does this mean? Why do they do stuff like that? That's the best way, and Allah knows best. As far as the approach is just assuming people not doing the right thing, assuming people are on bid'ah, assuming people are shot out, assuming because I never saw it, it must not be from the sunnah, that's a mistake. That's from our ignorance. Our lack of knowledge allows us to treat people like that and approach people like that. Not you, us. Because I was the same way. I ain't no different than y'all. I was the same way. I go in the gym, they tripping. I'm cool. Oh, you got another question? Uh-huh.
And when I walked in there, I was late for Mecca, and it was on the last rakat. And in the middle of the band, it started making dua.
Sahih.
And I'm like, wait, it was kind of like, I ain't never seen that.
Yeah, I ain't never seen that. I ain't going there no more.
What's that? Like, that joint kind of spooked me out, man.
Allahu Akbar. Sunnah, ya Sheikh. Sunnah. Qunut. It's called the Qunut prayer. And the Qunut prayer is the same one we do in Ramadan. Right? We do the Qunut in Ramadan. The Qunut prayer is when, at the end of the Taraweeh, in the last rakat, we go on real close. Sami Allah Muhammad, and the man says, Allah mahdina fi man hadayt, and we say Ameen, right? Okay, outside of Ramadan, it's also sunnah to do that at specific times. When the Muslims, as they say, is something going, affecting the Muslims, some type of hardship like the brothers and sisters in Gaza and Philistine, in other places besides Gaza and Philistine. That's the one that's being publicized. There's other places going on. Yeah, when stuff like that is going on, it's sunnah to make the qunut prayer. That's from the sunnah. When we were in Mecca, jazakallah khairan. When we were in Mecca, it would have to be done, like if something like this is going on, they call it basically a royal decree from the king of Saudi. It says, listen, everybody has to make the qunut prayer in the masjids. But based on what's going on in Palestine. Everybody, the imams of the masjid, when you pray to make the qunut. So everywhere you go, they doing it. Why? Because it's a nazil. It's a serious hardship that's affecting the Muslims. And they doing it there. And see, they practicing the sunnah. It's a sunnah that I've never seen before. So you used the perfect word too. That joint spooked me out a little bit. I didn't know what that was. Right? But that's what you do. You ask. Asking. I forgot the narration. Not the I. But I forgot that. It says, what's the difference between ikhtilaf and ijtihad? A sister said, what's the difference between ikhtilaf and ijtihad? Ikhtilaf is that it means generally differing. It's ikhtilaf in that issue. It's a difference of opinion amongst the scholars in a particular situation. What's the ruling on this? The scholars differ. That means the scholars, ikhtalaf al-ulama. The scholars have differed on the answer. The answer could be different depending on who you ask. That's ikhtilaf, right? You ask 3 scholars, they might get 3 different answers. Do they have a dalil? Huh? They all have dalil. All of them have dalil. Well, how you get 3 different answers? Based on what we studied. Based on what we just, how you get 3 different answers? It could be a different order, or it could be this scholar 1 is using dalil from the 6 that they don't agree on. Scholar 2 is using sunnah. They all agree on that. The other scholars using sunnah and something from the 6 that they disagree on. So the one that they disagree on and with the sunnah pushed together, he gets a different answer. You see what I'm saying? I forgot the question. Oh, ijtihad is not differing. Ijtihad means that a person, in simple terms, a person made a judgment call based on dalil that they have in front of them that may have not been 100% super clear. It wasn't cut and dry, meaning what they're looking at could be interpreted in more than one way. It could be understood like this and it could be understood like that. There are things like that. There are things that could be understood more than one way, right? When it comes like that, a couple things could happen. Either all of the Sahaba agree that no, this is what it means. That's ijma', consensus. What if the Sahaba differ on what it means? Then it's always going to be different up to our day on what that means. It's not going to stop when they died. Everybody coming after them is going to take one of those whose position on what it means. You see what I'm saying? So ijtihad means that a person looked at the issue, it's 2 opinions. Or he looked at the verse and it's 2 opinions. Or the verse, or the wording of the hadith or the wording in the ayat could be understood in more than one way. Tayyib, what's the right way to understand it? They're going to go to their usul, right? They're going to use whatever tools they have. Okay, I'm looking at it because it's things that we didn't get to that's inside of when we say he uses the Quran. Okay, what does that mean? That's general, use the Quran. Cool. Now we have a verse from the Quran. Now what do I do with that verse? You have to be able to dissect that verse. The tafsir of the verse, and there's other things besides tafsir in the verse that may help you get to your final conclusion. We didn't do any of that yet. That's a dive, when you dive in with all that, right? So now a person does all of that, and then at the end he comes with a final conclusion. Based on my study, what I've come up with, I think that I'm saying that it means this, based on the dalil that I know, and that's all I have. A scholar does his due diligence, they do their research, they do everything they can do to possibly get to the answer, and that's called ijtihad. They put forth all the effort they could to get to the final answer. And when they do that, they could still get the answer wrong. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, what? Either ijtahad al-hakim. If he does that, if he's right, he gets 2 rewards. And if he's wrong, which proves he can be wrong, he's still going to get a reward for all the work he did. What are we going to do? We're going to come and do no work. We're just going to buy the book and read what the sheikh said and live our lives like that. Alhamdulillah. Right? And the people of knowledge have been designated to do that type of work. So ijtihad is it's a process of due diligence that the people of knowledge, the scholars of Islam, they go through in order to get to the final answer. And ikhtilaf is it's basically they've already differed. So a person gonna say, well, what's the ruling on, I don't want to use nothing controversial, but let's just say, well, what's the ruling on women wearing the niqab? That's controversial anyway, I guess. The ulama differ. Somebody's going to say it's wajib. Then another person's going to say it's not wajib. Tayyib, what's the hukum if you want to, the ulama differ? All right, the scholars differ doesn't mean it's a green light for you to do whatever you want. But it should make you respect the people who are not doing what you do. Because the scholars who differ with the position that you hold, they're different based on dalil. They're not different just based on, I don't like niqab, they don't like niqab. They're different based on dalil. It's dalil that they're using, and based on the dalil that they have in front of them, they say, okay, based on this verse, this hadith, the practice of the Sahaba, niqab is obligatory for women to wear except in front of these people. And then based on the other scholars going to say, okay, based on the dalil that he's looking at, the niqab is not obligatory. Not obligatory doesn't mean leave it like that. It's not obligatory. Two different answers, right? This one bases answer on dalil, and this one bases answer on dalil. We're mad. We be mad at people because she doesn't wear niqab. Or she's mad because she does wear niqab. As if niqab doesn't have an origin in our religion. Niqab has an origin in deen, right? Both parties are upset at the other party for not following the position that they're following. And that's the third class of the adab, the manners in differing. When you take the position that the niqab is obligatory, how do I deal with you? What am I supposed to feel as a Muslim? Because you have dalil that you're working with. It ain't like you're shooting from the hip with no dalil. No, they practicing with evidence. And then the other group of scholars, they say, no, the dalil is not, or it's not obligatory. And this is based on the dalil. And I'm going to just say this before we get to you. Sheikh Al-Albani, rahimahullah, he wrote a book about this issue, the niqab. And if you don't know about Sheikh Al-Albani's presentation, he presents, and when he presents something, he has a very good presentation. So the book that he wrote about the niqab, he held the niqab not being obligatory, and generally in Saudi, the scholars hold the position that the niqab is obligatory. The book that Sheikh Al-Albani, rahimahullah, wrote about the niqab not being obligatory, everybody with me? That got to be my man, Sheikh. That's you, Sheikh? The book that he wrote about niqab, the book he wrote about the niqab not being obligatory, it was banned in Saudi in the bookstores. They banned it. They didn't allow the bookstores to sell it. Banned it. Sheikh Al-Albani's book, yeah, well, it's banned. You can't sell it in the bookstores here. Alhamdulillah, I was able to get it. And I went to a bookstore and I asked for it. And the brother looked at me and said, huh? I said, oh, you signed up to catch it. I said, the such and such book, such and such. It wasn't on the shelf. He had like a little tuck. Zoop. Right? You go through it, ayat, hadith. And you get the scholars who say it's obligatory, ayat, hadith. They both have dalil. So now, when we get to situations like that, how are we supposed to deal with each other? What we're not supposed to be doing is what we do, a lot of us. We looking down on the sister who doesn't have niqab on is looking at the sister with niqab on as if she's extreme and she doing too much. And there's dalil for covering the face, sis. And then the sister who doesn't wear niqab, the sisters with niqab on are looking at them like they crazy. She don't even wear niqab. Okay, it's dalil for not wearing it. What you should be doing is trying to find out what's the strongest, what's closer. That's our job. Not just, it's dalil, do what you want. They differ. Do what you want, whatever goes with my desire. No. Try to find out, try to read up as much as you can and find out what's closer to what Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam want from me. What does Allah want? And what's the practice of the Sunnah of the Prophet? That's what we're supposed to do when we get there. Try to find out which one is closer to what I'm supposed to be doing to please Allah. Not just, man, I bet now I can do this. We don't want to be people who just follow, as we say, our desires. Or the trend. Everybody wearing niqab, now I'm going to throw a niqab on. 2 years, everybody ain't wearing niqab, I'm going to take it off. Nah, it's worship. If it's obedience to Allah, it's worship. We shouldn't base our worship on a trend. Allah, I'm sorry, Shaykh. Jazakallah khair. Rahimahullah.
His family wore niqab, even though he made it.
Subhanallah. Sahih. Even though Sheikh Al-Albani rahimahullah, that's a famous story about Sheikh Al-Albani rahimahullah, even though he held the position that the niqab wasn't obligatory, right? His family, his wives and children, like his wives still wore niqab. Because she wore niqab, that doesn't necessarily mean he saw it to be obligatory. But a person could see, even though it's not obligatory, it's better. In the situation we're in, it's better to do something like that. But if you ask him a question, he might say, "La, it's not obligatory." But Sheikh, your wife got a niqab on. Tayyib. You asked me the hukum, Islam. Does Islam say it's obligatory for her to wear it? That's one thing. He just said no. But is it better for her to wear it? You understand the difference? This is a good question right here. Do you think our imams should begin doing qunut due to the state of the African American Muslim community? SubhanAllah. That's a good question, man. Somebody got that. The question says, do you think our imams should begin doing qunut due to the state of the African American Muslim community? A, i.e., the high crime rate and high amount of Muslims dying while publicly partaking in haram. MashaAllah. Qunut, the prayer they was doing, because that prayer is done when there's an affliction on the Muslims. Right? That's a good question. I'm saying this from the standpoint of the answer with qunut is a general answer. The details of qunut, if I were to answer a question like this, I would read the details of qunut again to refreshing myself up, and then I would answer the question. But that's definitely a good question. And that's definitely a good question. That's all I can say. Jazakallah khairan. That's a good one. I'm going to have to look into that. MashaAllah. The question? Qunut. Qunut. Yeah. It's usually spelled like Qunoot or Qunut. Qunut. Jazakallah khairan. I think that was it. If there's no more questions. It's a dua, just like in Ramadan. Just like we do in Ramadan at the end of Taraweeh, the last rak'ah, the imam comes up and instead of Sami Allahu liman hamida, Rabbana wa lakal hamd, and then everybody stops and he starts to make the prayer, the dua. That's the qunut. We only do it in Ramadan for the most part, but it's times to do it outside of Ramadan. Tayyib. If there's no more questions, we could stop there. Fadda. Because of our diseases and not knowing the sickness of having division with your brother. Right. Because of khilaf. But just when we mention khilaf, we need to have the fault. If you have this behavior with your brother and your sister, right. This is illness. If we have this illness. Say it again, Sheikh, so I can. The khilaf, yes, comes about from people seeing things that they don't know. Right. They take the position of that creates division. Sahih. Right. We have this disease. Right. So when we talk about it, we need to reemphasize that. When we talk about khilaf, sahih. So when we talk about differing, like we're talking about, it's two different opinions. A lot of us rush to separate. That's like, all right, they doing it different. Let's separate immediately. We're not really interested in why they doing it, if they have Dalil to do it. That's not even an interest. We're rushing to separate and divide, which is a problem. We're in a rush to divide and separate. The kind of condition that we're living in, we're in a rush to separate ourselves. And a lot of times, I'm not saying 100%, a lot of times these are not issues of aqeedah, right? Like, for example, I ain't gonna say his name, but for example, based on the issue that we talking about with the prayer lining up, that's a fiqh issue. The gaps between the line is a fiqh issue. But we're ready to separate, not you. I'm just saying, when we see stuff like that, we're ready to jump back and separate ourselves and cut that mad shit off. That's a separation. And I'm gonna tell people that I know, yo, that joint ain't right, don't go there. Or the qunut. Qunut is fiqh, it's a fiqh issue. I see something I don't know, we ready to separate. The ulama differ on this. Some allowed this, some allowed that. Or for example, the issue of voting. The issue of voting. Right? You start talking about voting, which is a new issue. And it's an old issue too. It's a new issue and it's an old issue. And when you have these issues, even when it's khilaf, when it's difference of opinion, where we rush to separate, along with the issues of when it's different, we need to be able to distinguish, which all of this takes knowledge, like he was talking about in the khutbah today. All of this takes issue because it could be an issue of aqeedah, belief. It could be a time that we do need to separate based on our belief. But all that has to be examined. For a lot of us, our immediate thing is separate, divide. And that's a problem that we have, which probably needs a whole class on. It's called adab al-khilaf. How do we behave? How to carry ourselves? What are the manners when we find these difference of opinion amongst the scholars? How should I look at my brother now if he takes the other position? I only knew this position all my life. I didn't even know it was another position. I didn't even know scholars said anything other. Now that I found out that it's some scholars who hold a different position and they have Dalil, how do I look at my brother and sister now? And the ones who I said were on bid'ah and they shot out, and then I find out later on, wait a minute, they do have Dalil. Do I owe them an apology? Do I owe them brothers and sisters who I told everybody they was off it and they just don't go to their masjid? Based on me not knowing the issue and me not knowing that they had proof and evidence from what they were doing, now I find out 10 years later, wow, they do have Dalil for that. Do I go back now and clean that up or just let it ride? Because I might have oppressed them. You see what I'm saying? May Allah forgive us, man. I mean.
For the public, they're lining up, and I'm using this humorously now what I'm about to say, in karate that people do with the feet, putting all their weight on people's feet, and just no khushu on the salah.
Sahih.
And they're so zealous without focusing on the
Sahih. With no doubt. That's the fiqh. The fiqh is, no doubt, sahih. Sah. That sometimes we talk about lining up and you hurting the brother or sister next to you, standing on their foot. You're like, you are heavy. You a whole person and you're trying to be so close that you're standing on their foot. Now you are bothering the person praying. How they going to concentrate in the salat with you standing on their foot? Because it's based on my understanding, no gaps, don't let the shaitan in. So now I'm going to stand on my brother's foot or my sister's foot to make sure no gaps come in. And every time I get out, I'm making sure, is that the understanding? Is that, the question has to be, is that what the Salaf understood when it came to the rows and the gaps? Or is that what I understand? Because I'm just being honest. I done prayed and I've seen numerous scholars pray in the same match. And I'm looking, you know, when you see early man, when you scanning, we looking at everything. He's drinking, he's standing up, he's sitting down drinking. He's walking, prayer. We see his thobe, how high is his thobe, everything. Right? Beard, cool. All right, bet. We doing a whole checklist on the shake. Looking at his thobe long, John long. If we was in Philly, that would not fly. Listen, I saw some earlier math. If they came to Philadelphia, thobe was not below the ankles. Thobe was above the ankles. The hadith says was below the ankles. We made above the ankles up to almost the knee. That's what we made it. It had to be that far. So anything if it's close to the ankle, for a lot of us, that's too close. But you go see people with knowledge. I said, whoa, that's it's above the ankle. It's according to the hadith, it's no problem. But if he went to Philly, that wouldn't fly. Look at them pray. I saw like one scholar that I've seen pray touch the foot of the person next to him. That's just what I've seen. That doesn't mean that scholar was a Dalil or the other scholars are a Dalil. I'm not saying that they're proof of what we're supposed to do. I'm saying what's the understanding? How am I supposed to understand all those hadith that we're talking about closing the gaps and the jinn and the shaitan not coming in? Or they don't understand them. Or these scholars, they don't understand them hadith. I understand it, but they don't understand it. I'm just saying our reality. Me, I can't read the Arabic text of the hadith. I don't read Arabic. I'm reading the translation that somebody translated. But I do understand the hadith. And the sheikhs that wrote the books and stuff is explaining all about deen to it. They don't understand it. No, it's something else going on, which should make me want to learn and inquire. We can do this all day. I'm going to stop, inshallah, if there's no more questions. Maybe we could put something together to try to do the adab khilaf, the adab and the manners of how we're supposed to differ and deal with each other when we're different. Inshallah. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak nabiyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Jazakallah. That's sah. Every time we do something like that, we need to, because you're right, the default, how you do that?